Hello, this is Chris Wilson with Fundraising Done Right. I want to thank you for entering your information in to learn more about our fundraiser. We developed this video to help individuals that just entered their information in. They just watched the initial video, and they probably are wondering, what is this fundraiser? How can we generate this income? This looks a little bit different. This looks unique. Let's get to the point. Let's get to the information, to the actual point of getting the information. What we've done is we've taken the information, we've broken it down into about 10 or 15 different emails. You'll get one a day, and it's really like pieces of the puzzle. It puts it all together. And to help us out, I have from Greensboro, North Carolina, one of our top instructors and one of the owners here with Fundraising Done Right, Tim Potter. How you doing, Tim?
Chris, I'm doing great, and I appreciate the opportunity to not only be on this audio with you tonight, but to be your business partner and co-owner of this company, and we are so excited about what we're trying to do. One of the things, though, that we've recognized early on that we need to do, though, is to really help people understand how this fundraiser works, as you mentioned earlier in the discussion. In the people that we talk to, when people start hearing the percentages that we're going to pay to a fundraiser, it's an astronomical percentage. We're talking 40%. Back to the fundraisers, and there's a lot of fundraising groups out there that are doing a lot of work and really spending a lot of time for percentages far less than that. I know of several that work in the 5 to 10% range. Well, we've quadrupled that, but I think the thing that we have to do is to help people understand really what this program is about, and then subsequently how that they can generate a tremendous amount of money for their organization.
Yeah, Tim, people are already sold on fundraising. They're already doing fundraising. They're doing it constantly. I look at a lot of the websites. I look at a lot of the groups that we work with. They have their golf tournament, or they're selling bricks, or they have their car wash. They have their beef and beer. They have their spaghetti dinner. They're selling pizza. They're selling candy, and they're putting all this work together. So they're already sold on fundraising. But I think, Tim, what I heard you say is we're really helping people to become more efficient in their fundraiser. And when we start to get into some of this information we're going to discuss here, really what I think is we're really introducing people to a different concept, because what I've found is when we talk to these fundraisers, they in their mind have a preset connotation of traditional fundraising. Some of these groups we're talking to have been around for decades, and that's all they've known is traditional fundraising. And really we're creating the next generation of fundraising that is not traditional. Tim, would you agree that when you're looking at this information, you have to have somewhat of an open mindset? Don't have that stereotypical traditional sense of a fundraiser, because I think, Tim, that when people have that and we start to discuss this with them, that they just can't get out of that traditional mode, and they can't think in a different light of how their fundraiser could be more efficient rather than what it is right now today.
Well, Chris, I think you're exactly right, and I'll be the first to really applaud these groups that have gone out and made the decision that if it's going to be, it's up to me, and we're going to raise the money that we need to raise for our organization. I've been there in the university environment where there were various teams that I've coached over the years, and the university administration, they're very supportive of what we're trying to do, but essentially they say, well, you're going to have to go raise your own money to do it. So I get it. I understand the traditional fundraising. I think where a lot of people, though, where perhaps we need to bridge the gap in this discussion is to really help identify what it is that we're providing, because traditional fundraising involves some type of a product. You mentioned bricks and car washes and things like that, and there's certainly nothing wrong with that. But what we're doing, we've created something here to where it's a win-win for everybody, because we're teaching people how to improve themselves, how to become more successful, and through that product, we're going to take that 40% and pay back to your organization. So it's really a win-win, and when you look at it, Chris, I've played with the numbers. I know you have too. If a fundraising group that's associated with us, Fundraising Done Right, if a group comes on and they get 250 people participating in this program, that's going to generate them $56,000 a year. Do the math. You got to wash a lot of cars to make $50,000. You got to sell a lot of bricks to make $50,000. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Chris, I really think that we have developed a category-creating fundraising model. What do you think?
I think we have too. You brought us some staggering statistics. We pay 40%. Why do a lot of fundraisers not pay 40%? And I think this is important for us to discuss before we move on. Our goal for this company is to help organizations reach their goal. Our goal for this company is not to make fundraising done right a ton of money. And the reason why a lot of the traditional fundraisers are difficult when you're selling candy, when you're selling products, is because those companies, their goals are to generate profits and revenues. They are actually companies that are just trying to move their products through a large organization of people that have goals of fundraising for whatever their emotional goals are for that organization. So we're able to do it because our goal is focused on helping these organizations that come to us that say they want to be more efficient to help them reach their goal. That's our number one primary goal. And I think a lot of the fundraising companies that work with these organizations, their number one goal really isn't to provide them the necessary means to reach their goals. I look at it, Tim, as kind of a Band-Aid. When I was a high school teacher, I had to do a lot of fundraising for not only the high school classes, but also the athletic organizations I was associated with, and they really just giving us a Band-Aid. They knew that they had us because we had things we wanted to get done and that we didn't have enough money. So they were in the driver's seat. And then the percentages they were giving us, were they okay, I guess, if you compare them to other fundraisers? Because I think a lot of them, like you said, are in the 5 to 10% range. We do 40% because isn't our concern number one is to help these organizations reach their goals more efficiently?
Well, sure it is. We could have made the decision that we're going to pay out 5, 10%, whatever, but that just makes us a me too, really, in my opinion. But we said, no, our focus, you said it and I'm going to reiterate, our focus is to help every organization. And hear me when I say that. Every organization out there, regardless of what it is, whether it's a high school booster club, a sports team of some type, a nonprofit, there's hundreds and thousands of nonprofit organizations in this country. I can speak to this a little bit because I've worked with them a lot over the years, and I actually have a couple of nonprofits myself. They have relied on traditional fundraising models and private donations for years and years. The problem with that, though, as I see it, is number one, the percentages are never enough to really accomplish what that organization wants to accomplish. But here's the bigger problem in my mind. At the end of the year, it's done, and you got to start over again. We've created something here that as long as someone's participating in our program, that organization is going to make 40% for every customer that they bring to our program for as long as they remain in the program. Get a young person that's 16, 17 years old that starts participating in this program, and they love it so much they may participate for 10 years. Well, that organization that customer is tied to, they're going to receive 40% of that for as long as they participate. I think that just really differentiates us and puts us on a different level in terms of being able to really help these groups. But you're exactly right. Our mission and our number one priority is to help others, period, end of story.
Well, Tim, basically what we did in a nutshell, we have developed a fundraiser based around an industry that in 2012 generated over $12 billion. And you can call this industry a couple different things. You can call it the personal development industry, the self-help industry, or the self-improvement industry. It's all just different terms. But I think this is what happens to a lot of people. When they hear self-help, a lot of people really don't know what self-help is. When they think self-help, I think they think that there's something wrong with someone and I don't need self-help. Or people hear personal development, and I think they kind of can formulate what they think personal development is, but they really don't know what it is. I think the best term moving forward is self-improvement. Basically what we did is we have done what no one else has ever done before. We've taken a $12 billion industry of self-improvement and we've turned it into a fundraiser. And this is where we're creating the cutting edge. We're taking an industry that no matter if it's a good economy or a bad economy, the industry thrives. And typically in a poor economy or a struggling economy, the self-improvement industry takes off even more. What I think happens is when we look at the income that's generated within this industry, the majority of it, I think, is generated from people when their ages maybe closer to 30 years old and older. I think the one demographic that just hasn't been touched yet in personal development or self-improvement is the younger generation. Would you agree with that?
Chris, I'd absolutely agree with that. Your daughters are young. My daughters are teenagers. I can assure you that except for the time that we've spent with them in the principles that we try to teach our own children, that's all they're getting. There's very little, if any, self-improvement material or concepts taught in the educational system. That's just the facts. The universities are the same way. As we get into the curriculum, if you recall, I've given a lot of examples of where I've tried to develop some of those thoughts and ideas and techniques within the classroom, and it's totally foreign to the students. You're exactly right. Traditionally, there's been a large percentage of people that are 30 years old or older that participate in self-improvement programs, but very, very few of the younger ones have ever participated. Chris, I've thought about this a lot. Had I had access to this type of information when I was a teenager, how much different that things could have been, because I could have been engaged in an intentional personal development or self-improvement program from a very early age. We're giving kids today the opportunity that, let's say somebody's a high school baseball player that's got a really good shot to go play in college and maybe even get drafted into the pros. They can work on the techniques of playing baseball, as you say, until the cows come home. But they've got to have the mental part of it as well. They've got to have the self-improvement, teaching them to think the right way and deal with issues as they occur in the proper way. I just think it gives kids a tremendous opportunity to participate.
You made a great point. The majority of people that get associated with or into the self-improvement industry do so through other people who are in the self-improvement industry or other people who are successful that intentionally follow programs and typically do things on a daily basis in the self-improvement industry to become better. Formal education doesn't teach this. That's why people that are in these organizations, these booster clubs that are listening to this right now, a lot of them just kind of don't get it because they've never been associated with this and never been taught. They think academics is really all you need. But see, where we have an advantage when we developed this company is we've been on both fences. Number one, we've both fundraised. We fundraise. We know all the issues there is in fundraise. Number two, we both coach. And we've coached for years in athletics and in competition. So we know how important of what you just said. Talent and skill alone gets you so far, but what separates the individuals in athletics and competition is the mental side, the mental game. So right now, if we're talking to athletic boosters, you're trying to make your athletes better. And how do you get these athletes better? It's becoming mentally tough, and that's really what self-improvement is. You learn how to write goals. You learn how to increase your confidence. You learn how to overcome obstacles, how to overcome your fears. That's what self-improvement is. When you look at Tiger Woods, athletes that excel in college, excel at the professional level, they are involved in some type of mental training, self-improvement program. You can call the terms of the industries whatever you want, but mental training, self-improvement, that's all lumped into the self-help industry. And because we've been on both sides of the fences, as we know what it takes and what these athletes want and really what kids want, and you made a great point that these kids are begging for this information because they know they're uninspired in high school and they can't figure out why they're learning what they're learning. We've been in a fundraiser environment, so we know the struggles. When we combine them, it's absolutely powerful. So what we're doing is we're being proactive. We're taking this information and we built a curriculum that really gives people the structure, because that's basically what people want is when they go to high school, they have the structure. They don't have to write goals. They don't have to plan things out because they say, I want to go to college. They say, okay, this is what you follow. These are the classes you take. You got to get good grades. And then when you go to college, it's the same thing. I want to go do this profession. Well, these are the classes that you take. These are the credits you got to earn. And everything's done for you. So then when they go into the real world, it's very difficult because now there's no structure. They have a job, and now they have to figure out, well, how do I set goals for myself? How do I time manage for myself? I have all these things going on and all these responsibilities. And how do I overcome setbacks that I have? How do I overcome these failures? And how do I overcome the fears? And how do I build my confidence and all this stuff? Because before they were in an environment for maybe 4 years or 8 years or 10 years that was very rigid and strict and was already laid out for them. And that's basically what we did, is we laid out a curriculum for individuals, and we're just taking self-improvement to people at a much younger age, because you made a point, man, I wish I had this when I was a teen. I wish I had this when I was a teen too. I didn't get into personal development into my late 20s, early 30s. And that was only because I was hanging around with successful people and I wanted to be successful, and the education system didn't give me what I needed to be successful. They gave me what I needed to have a job and earn an income, but not to be successful and reach my dreams. And basically that's what we've done. And when we sit down, Tim, with a lot of people, we always get deer in the headlights. When they first start to look at this information, they kind of don't get it.
Well, Chris, I think so. We get various reactions, or we did, at least in the beginning. You get the deer in the headlights. You get the people that look like that they're kind of afraid of what we're talking about. And it all comes down to it's because they've never been exposed to something like self-improvement. Here's a couple of points that I want to make. We've talked about athletics quite a bit. If the mental aspect of sports wasn't important, there would be no such thing as sports psychologists, I don't think. Number two, I think I heard you say in there, at least between the lines, we can teach students how to become better students through self-improvement, because we teach them how to write goals. We teach them how to manage their time. We teach them how to deal with failure, how to deal with setbacks, to not be afraid of it. There's just so many things that we teach in this curriculum, chances are we'll never be exposed to until they make that conscious decision to get into a self-improvement program.
What we do in this program, and we're talking about fundraising. We're talking to groups right now. We're talking to groups that are looking for something else or something additional on top of what they're doing. Where we really stand out is we teach these organizations to be more efficient, because we teach them how to develop an income stream that's constant, that comes in month after month after month after month. But more importantly, I think where this really takes off is we hit a real emotional button, not only with parents, but with the kids, and then with the entire community. Because I can't tell you how many times that I talk to these organizations and I sit down and I ask them this specific question. Is the fundraiser you're running, is it actually benefiting the person on the other end? Are you actually giving more than you're receiving? And I think a lot of times in fundraising, why it doesn't really take off as much as it does, because the fundraisers are asking for a lot more than what they're giving on the other end. And when we sat down, and like I said, we lived our careers on both sides of the fence, as educators and as individuals in doing the fundraising. So we know what that feels like, that you're always going and asking to give, but you're never giving back anything as great than what you're getting. And I think that's why our fundraiser takes off, is because you're giving something so much more valuable than stuff, than a pizza, than candy, than a nice day out at the golf course. You're giving so much more. You're helping people to become better. I think that emotionally, the good sense of the cause, it kind of changes. It changes from the goals that your organization has as far as why you're generating this money to now we want to help people become better, and you'll be amazed at how the money follows that in your fundraising organization. I think fundraisers have a difficult time because they're leading with the money that they have to fundraise to reach their goals. Some people on the other end are saying, man, this is kind of crazy. They're doing this fundraiser or that fundraiser. I don't get it. I think that within itself is what sets our fundraiser apart. We are actually giving a lot more as organizations to the community and the people than they're actually getting back. Would you agree with that?
Chris, for sure I would agree with that, because to me, here's the bottom line. And we talk to hundreds of thousands of people all the time. I have these conversations with people in the church that I pastor quite frequently. We ask them, what are things that are really important to you? Generally, the topics that they mention would be health, relationships, spirituality, finances, those types of topics. Here's the deal. If you're a donor today in a traditional fundraising program, you're going to write a check, and that's basically what you do. Our goal, and I believe this from the bottom of my heart, that everybody that participates in this program, they're going to be able to improve one, if not all, of those areas of their life. They're going to learn how to get healthier because of the mental aspect of it, and I'm talking about physical health. They're going to learn how to have better relationships. They're going to learn how to monetize things and to generate more income and live more of the lifestyle that they've always dreamed about. And so to me, that's a no-brainer. I think when people can get things back, and you make a great point, we're not talking about tangible stuff. Now, for that person that's participating in this program to know that their enrollment is, number one, helping that fundraising organization, but then number two, this has helped me with my health, with my relationships, with my finances. I've got to tell everybody I know about it. And I believe it with everything that I have, that that's the kind of response that we're going to get once people really understand and get what we're doing.
As the fundraisers go through this information step by step, I think the main question that they need to answer for themselves is, do the people in our community, do the students need this information? Do they need to be taught this? Because if you can't answer that question, then it's very hard to figure out what this fundraiser is doing or what we're trying to accomplish. If you can sit down and as you go through this information and say, you know what, our kids can use this. This can be a benefit, and this can be a true win-win situation. We don't have to put all this time and effort in fundraising over and over again. You've got a new freshman class that comes in every single year. You've got a senior class that graduates, and we have a program, Tim, that goes on and on and on. Self-improvement is constant. We developed this because we've seen how important this is in our careers as entrepreneurs, as educators, and we just had to come up with a way to get this into kids' hands quicker, but more importantly, solve the fundraising issue with declining budgets. Fundraising is now getting even more difficult when you have a down economy and a recession that's going on. The fundraising dollars are really getting tight. So if you're not giving value to people, it's very easy for them to say, you know what, I don't need that candy. You know what, I don't need that pizza. I don't need that whatever widget or gadget that you're selling me. What they're going to do is they are going to be very intentional about the money that they give to organizations. And if you can give something back, if you can answer the question, does self-improvement, does that help people become better? And is helping people become better, is that a major philosophy within our fundraising group, within our booster organization or our PTA? If we want to make people better, then are the fundraisers that we're running right now, are they hitting the target, or are they just generating us funds? Are we really following what our mission statements say? That we want to make our student athletes better. We want to make our children better. We want to make them better citizens. Does a brick that goes on the walkway into the brand new football stadium, is that making our children better? So at the end of the day, Tim, I think that's what these individuals who are associated with these fundraising groups need to answer for themselves. What do you think?
Chris, we can talk about statistics all night long about how big the self-improvement industry is and so on and so forth. And it is huge. It's a tremendously successful industry. Nobody, and you said this earlier, and I just want to say it again, nobody has ever taken the approach of developing a way for an organization to participate in self-improvement and raise money at the same time. For all of the folks that are listening to this, it really just comes down to making that decision. How big of a piece of this $12 billion pie do we want to get for our organization? And we talk about 250 people generates $56,000 a year. What if you're associated with a high school that has 4,000 students? And let's say half of those participate. And I can tell you here real quick how much that would be. For 2,000 students participating, that's $451,000 a year. Again, I think people listening to this have to ask the question, $451,000 a year, and we're allowing the participants to be a part of a program where they are improving every aspect of their life. What's to think about? Really, to me, it's just that obvious.
You brought up a great point. When you're talking about 2,000 students, it doesn't have to be 2,000 students. This is offered to your community. It could be 500 people that are alumni over the past couple decades. It could be another 500 people within the community. It could be another 1,000 students. So it could be any mixture because so many people out there are in self-improvement. Now, at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to transition and we're going to let them watch a 10-minute video from an individual named Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn is an extremely successful entrepreneur, has been in the self-improvement industry for decades. Jim passed away in 2009, and you'll see as you start to go through this video, It's dated a little bit, but the information is just as current as it was back then as it is today. Watch through its entirety and start to think, how can we help our students accomplish what Jim Rohn's talking about?
I guess the last thing that I would like to say is that this is not something that we just dreamed up overnight. This is something that you and I have been talking about and planning for and strategizing on for years. Our primary objective is to help everybody out there that chooses to participate achieve their goals. If that's a person that's participating in the self-improvement program, they're definitely going to get better. If it's the fundraising group, they're obviously going to get better. That's our first and foremost objective. It's a tremendous honor to be able to do this. And the other thing that we thought about when we put this thing together is that I don't think either one of us have any interest at all in being Me Too. We want it to be the first to offer something like this, and that's what we've done. So we're excited about it, and I look forward to helping every group in this country that wants to participate. I look forward to working with them on a personal level and helping them achieve their goals and dreams.
From this point on, we're going to transition into the Jim Rohn video. Make sure you watch it in its entirety. My name is Chris Wilson with Fundraising Done Right. Thank you.
Next subject, personal development. Some of the things Mr. Shoaff taught me starting at age 25, some things came quickly, some things came easily. Setting goals, that was easy. We're going to talk about that later on. But this one I had to struggle with, personal development. It was hard for me to give up my old blame list. It was so comfortable blaming the government and blaming my negative relatives and the company policy, unions, wage scale, economy, interest rates, prices and circumstances and all that. That was difficult for me to give up. That was quite a transition for me to make, and blaming myself. But Mr. Shoaff started out with something very, very important. Let me give that to you. He said, it's not what happens that determines the major part of your future. It's not what happens. What happens happens to us all. He said the key is what you do about it. It's not what happens, it's what you do about it. And he said if you will start that process of change, do something different the next 90 days than you did the last 90 days, like picking up the books to read. Do something different like the new health disciplines, relationship with your family, whatever it is, doesn't matter how small it is. If you'll start doing different things with the same circumstances, since we cannot change the circumstances, but we can change ourselves. We can change what we do. And then he gave me another secret to success when he said, what you have at the moment, Mr. Rohn, you've attracted by the person you've become. What you have at the moment, you've attracted by the person you've become. Few little simple principles here. Once you understand these, it starts to explain so much. Now, sometimes it's a little tough to take, blaming yourself instead of the marketplace, taking responsibility instead of putting it off on someone else. That transition sometimes is a challenging mission. And this one was a little tough for me. He said, Mr. Rohn, you've got pennies in your pocket, you've got nothing in the bank, the creditors are calling, you're behind on your promises. And he says, here's how that occurs. You've attracted, up until now, you've attracted the things to you because of the person you've become. Now I said, well, how can I change all that? He said, very simple. If you will change, everything will change for you. You don't have to change what's outside. All you've got to change is what's inside. To have more, you simply have to become more. And then he said, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. Don't wish for less problems, wish for more skills. Start working on yourself, making these personal changes, and he said it'll all change for you. So let's talk a little bit about personal development, that extraordinary adventure I undertook starting at age 25. And I've never ceased that adventure. I'm still going for it in the 90s. I want to get better and better. I want my craft to get better, my business operations to get better, the things I do to get better. Because once I put this simple formula, I'm telling you, it's easy to figure out where the problem is if you go to work on it. Now, let's talk about personal development. And in helping kids understand personal development, I always start with money. Now, money's not the only place to start. Money certainly isn't the only value, but we've all got to start somewhere, and money's something you can count, right? Kids are interested in money, okay? A lot of things are a little tougher to measure, but economics is pretty easy, right? Because you can count. Okay, somebody says, how are you doing? You say, I don't know. Let's count. Now, this is not the only count. I understand that. There's a lot of other things to count. But to see if there may be some errors in your judgment and lack of disciplines in your life, we might as well start with money, because it's so easy to count. So let's just start there and see whether or not maybe we have messed up. Okay. So here's how I explain it to kids. We get paid for bringing value to the marketplace. Key to understanding economics. We get paid for bringing value to the marketplace. Marketplace is also described as reality. Reality, the marketplace. Now, it takes time. It takes time to bring value to the marketplace, but we don't get paid for time. It's very important for kids to understand, as well as adults. We don't get paid for time. Mistakenly, the man says, well, I'm making about $20 for an hour. Not true. Not true. If that was true, you could just stay home, have them send your money. No, it's not true. You don't get paid for the hour. You get paid for the value you put in the time. So we don't get paid for time, we get paid for value. Now, since that's true, here's one of the key questions of the afternoon. Is it possible to become twice as valuable and make twice as much money in the same time? Is it possible to become 3 times as valuable as you now are and make 3 times as much money in the same time? Is that possible? Of course. If you want to really emphasize something, that's a good phrase, Stuart. Of course. Of course. Okay. Now, all you have to do to earn more money in the same time is simply become more valuable. America's unique. It's a ladder to climb. Starts down here, what, about $4 an hour? Big argument last year in Congress about the starting place. Should be 5, should be 5, should be 5. Well, no, it doesn't need to be 5. Why not start with 4? It's a ladder. Right? This is not a bed. This is a ladder. This is a ladder to climb. Starts at $4. Now somebody said, well, should be 5, should be 5. Well, maybe. If you're going to stay at the bottom for the rest of your life, it probably should be 5. But that's kind of a pitiful way to live. Start and not grow. Start and not change. Start and not become more valuable. Hey, the whole scenario of life is to start, number 1, and what? Become more valuable, number 2. So America's a ladder to climb. Starts at $4 an hour, and the more valuable you become, you just keep moving up the ladder. Top income last year, what, 52 million? Guy that runs Disney? Would a company pay somebody for 1 year's work $52 million? And the answer is, of course. This is one of those of course places. Of course. If you help a company make $1 billion, would they pay you $52 million? The answer is, of course. It's chicken feed. I mean, it's not much money. Now, why that much money? Because he has become so valuable. Now, why would we pay somebody only $4 an hour? They're not very valuable to the marketplace. Now, we got to make that distinction, to the marketplace. Might be a valuable brother, a valuable member of the community, a valuable member of the church, valuable member in the sight of God, to the human family, of course, those kind of values. But to the marketplace, which is called what? Reality. Reality is, if you're not very valuable, you don't get much money. Those are called the facts. I mean, that's how that is. Well, then how do you get more money? Simple answer. Somebody says, well, I'll go on strike for more. Well, here's a major problem with that. Here's a major problem with that. You can't get rich by demand. Somebody says, well, I'm waiting for a raise. I'm telling you, it's easier to climb than to wait for a raise. Why not just become more valuable rather than wait? I'm telling you, that's the key to all good things. Becoming more valuable. Why would we pay somebody $400 an hour? They've become more valuable to the marketplace. See how this works? I'm telling you, this stuff is so easy. This is America. This is a ladder. How far is it from 4 to 5? I'm telling you, it's not far. $4 to $5 an hour? If you work for McDonald's, haul out the trash, they'll pay you $5 an hour. If you whistle while you haul out the trash, they'll pay you $5 an hour. I'm telling you. You'll get an extra $1 just for a good attitude. Yay, McDonald's. Wear the hat. Incredible. $5. And then you just keep becoming more valuable, more valuable, more valuable. I got a telephone call 5 years ago. The company said, we're ready to expand internationally. We need some help. I was sort of semi-retired. Right? Looking for the next exotic beach. They said, no, Mr. Rohn, we got a project for you. Right? We're going to expand internationally. We could use your help. Next little while, we'll add some millions to your fortune, make it worth your while. I said, okay. I thought later, isn't that interesting that they called me? My second thought was, of course they'd call me. Who else would they call? I mean, you know, I can get the job done. Now, how come I got a telephone call worth millions? I had become valuable. Now, I'm a farm boy from Idaho. I was raised in obscurity. 1 year of college, and I thought I was thoroughly educated. Made all kinds of mistakes galore. At age 25, the creditors are calling me saying, hey, you told us the check was in the mail. I got pennies in my pocket. I got nothing in the bank. I'm behind on my promises. How come I get a telephone call 5 years ago and it's worth millions? I changed. I turned my life around. Is it possible to become worth millions? Speaking economically, now there's a lot of values to become, but let's just talk economics. Is it possible to become that valuable? And the answer is, of course. Now let me give you the secret. Shoaff said, here's the secret, Mr. Rohn. Learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Once I got that, it turned my life around. Learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. He said, if you work hard on your job, you'll make a living. If you work hard on yourself, you can make a fortune. Wow. If you would have known me at age 25, you would have said, Jim Rohn's a hard worker. If you'd have known me, you'd have said that. I'm the guy, I don't mind coming a little bit early, staying a little bit late. I don't mind that. You'd have said, well, Jim Rohn's a hard worker. You say, well, how come he's got pennies in his pocket and nothing in the bank and behind on his promises? Well, I was a hard worker, but I was working hard on my job, not on myself. I'm telling you, if you'll learn that simple little principle and start the process today, latest tomorrow, I'll give you tonight to think it over. And start this whole process of personal development, work on yourself, make yourself more valuable to the marketplace. I'm telling you, you can so dynamically change your income, and economics is the least of the values that you can start earning in terms of equity if you'll start working harder on yourself than you do on your job. Work hard on yourself and develop the skills. Work hard on yourself and develop the graces. All of the stuff necessary to become more valuable to the marketplace. I'm telling you, your whole life can explode into change. Promotions, no problem. Becoming more valuable to the company, I'm telling you, no problem. Money, no problem. Economics, no problem. Future, no problem. If you just go to work on the right thing. Not get things out there to change. Don't try to change the seed. Don't change the soil. Don't change the sunshine. Don't change the rain. Don't change the mix of seasons. Let the miracle of everything that's available work for you, and start working on the inside. Work on your philosophy, work on your attitude, work on your personality, work on your language, work on the gift of communication, work on all of your abilities. And if you'll start making those personal changes, I'm telling you, everything will change for you.